Have you ever tried to do something genuinely good, only to have it completely blow up in your face? Well, today, we're diving into this incredible story from the ancient world where a simple act of goodwill literally starts a war. And believe it or not, hidden inside this whole mess is a really powerful lesson for how to handle any crisis, especially the ones you never see coming. I mean, we've all been there, right? You try to do something nice, extend an olive branch, and it gets completely misinterpreted, or worse, thrown right back at you. It's frustrating. And that exact feeling is the doorway into our story today. So our story doesn't start with an act of aggression or a threat. It starts with a gesture of peace, of respect between two neighboring kingdoms. It's a moment that really should have made an alliance stronger. But instead, it ended up lighting the fuse for a massive conflict. Here's the setup. The king of a neighboring nation, Ammon, dies. So Israel's King David, who had been friends with the guy, decides to send a delegation to the new king, his son Hanun, just to offer his condolences. You know, a totally normal diplomatic move. What could possibly go wrong? Well, as it turns out, pretty much everything. The new king's advisors immediately start whispering in his ear. They say, "Come on, you don't actually think David is honoring your father, do you? No way. He sent these guys as spies to check out the city so he can come conquer it." And the new king, instead of seeing this for the paranoia it is, he listens, and he decides to react in the most insulting way imaginable. Now, what King Hanun does next isn't just rude, it's a deep and very intentional act of public shame. To really get why this led to war, we have to kind of step into the mindset of the ancient world. This was basically an act of character assassination. So he takes David's highest officials, his envoys, and does two very specific things to them. First, he has half of each man's beard shaved clean off. Second, he has their robes sliced off right at the hip, exposing their entire backside. Now, to us, that might just sound like a really bizarre, cruel prank, but in their culture, this was absolutely devastating. So let's break this down, because the cultural meaning here is everything. A man's beard back then wasn't just facial hair. It was a symbol of his honor, his authority, his status as a free man. To shave it was to brand him as a slave or a criminal. And shaving only half of it, that was designed for maximum public mockery. But cutting their garments was even worse. It was a profound sexual humiliation, a taboo act that you would only do to prisoners of war to utterly dehumanize them. So when word gets back to David about what happened, his first reaction is one of compassion for his men. He knows the incredible shame they must be feeling. So he tells them, "Look, don't come back to the capital yet. Stay in Jericho, out of the public eye, until your beards, your honor, can grow back." It was a small but really telling act of leadership. He protected them. But let's be real, David was a warrior king. He wasn't about to let this kind of grave insult to his kingdom just slide. And the Ammonites, they knew it. They knew they had made a huge mistake, and they knew exactly what was coming for them. Yep, the Ammonites realized they had crossed a line that they could not uncross. Knowing that David's response would be fast and furious, they start scrambling. They hire tens of thousands of paid mercenaries from the surrounding areas to prepare for an all-out war. The diplomatic crisis was over. The military crisis was just beginning. So David sends out his army under his top general, a guy named Joab. But when Joab gets there, the situation is an absolute nightmare. The Ammonite army is dug in front of him, and all those mercenaries they hired are positioned behind him. He and his men are completely trapped, caught in a pincer move. Defeat looks all but certain. And in this moment of extreme crisis, with his back completely against the wall, Joab turns to his brother and fellow commander, Abishai. And he gives one of the most incredible speeches in military history. It's not a boast. It's not even a simple prayer for victory. It's something else entirely. So let's really break down what Joab said, because it holds this profound principle for how to deal with any crisis when the outcome is totally out of your hands. It's a masterclass in leadership, faith, and focus. I mean, think about it. What would most people pray in this situation? "God, please give us the win. Please destroy our enemies," right? It would be a demand, a request for a very specific, desired outcome. But Job's statement is fundamentally different. What's the crucial distinction here? The principle at the heart of what he's saying is this really powerful combination of absolute effort and absolute surrender.
It's a mindset that separates your responsibility from the final results. And man, is that a freeing concept in the middle of a crisis.
Joab's philosophy basically has two parts. The first part is, be strong and let us fight bravely. That's the call to action. That's our part. We control our effort, our courage, our strategy. We're going to give it everything we have. And then there's the second part. The Lord will do what is good in his sight. And that's the release. The outcome, victory or defeat, is not up to us. We do our part, and then we have to trust that whatever happens is the right outcome.
You see, this kind of redefines faith, doesn't it? It isn't about using faith as a tool to get the result you want. It's about having the faith to do your absolute best and then accept the result, trusting that even a defeat might be what is ultimately good or necessary in the grand scheme of things. It's this beautiful balance between human responsibility and divine sovereignty. And this brings us right back to that feeling we started with. We all live in a world where our kindness can be twisted to look like a trick, where our integrity is met with suspicion, and where sometimes our very best efforts still end in failure. We can feel trapped, just like Joab's army, surrounded by problems with no clear path to victory. So the takeaway from this ancient story really becomes a question for all of us. When your goodwill backfires and you find yourself in a crisis you didn't create, what is your part to play? Where do you need to be strong and fight bravely? And what ultimately is the result that you have to let go of and entrust to something bigger than yourself? Finding that balance, that's the key.